Beth, I've been thinking a little bit about your Ed Week blog from about a year ago.
The one after Southwest about like how do we communicate all of these ideas to the people who aren't even having the conversations?
Yeah, as somebody who hasn't been to South by Southwest, I guess I'm just kind of struggling with what's the purpose. Like, why do people go?
I mean, I think it's really about the people. It's about having these crazy conversations with everyone who's ready to take a leap. I mean, I explained it the other day to someone. It's like going to the leading edge and then going another mile past it. And it's people who are really trying to figure out like what's next on the horizon. What are the really essential questions to ask? What are the problems to solve?
Yeah, I get some of that from, watching some of the videos they post, which are great, and, reading through the sessions. But, I feel like a lot of these cutting edge ideas seem an awful lot like, what we'd read about if you were to read Dewey or Illich or Papert or Deb Meyer, who wrote about these things, decades ago. I mean, it's almost like Back to the Future.
I mean, well, I think that's a fair point. And I think a lot of what schools are striving for today, the way we're talking about personalized learning and authentic context and solving messy problems. I mean, Dewey and Sumner, I mean, they were talking about this a century ago. So, I mean, again, I think with South by Southwest, it's about having these really deep conversations, but also the ones that, we don't really want to have, it's the ones that really get into the meat of what do we want learning to look like. And yet what's, amazing is that all of these ideas from the past, just seem to disappear.
You mean kind of like Marty and the Enchantment Under the Sea dance? I mean, like, how do we fix this?
I mean, I actually think Back to the Future is just such a great metaphor for what we need to discuss.
All right, you're gonna have to explain this one, Beth.
Okay, so, I mean, let's take the movie, right? So, like, Marty takes everything he knows when he goes back into the past. I remember he made, like, a makeshift skateboard because those didn't exist. And he doesn't take it literally, right? So he takes what he knows and he adapts it to the context and the culture of the past. And so, I mean, I think that's what we need to figure out is how do we take these ideas and adapt them to new culture? I mean, it's like what John Seely Brown says, like, how do we bring the core back out to the edge?
Honestly, Beth, it kind of works. And, it kind of got me thinking that when you watch the movie, the movie focuses on Marty, but the future is really up to George. It's really about how does Marty empower George to see himself in a new light and take action.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing's true for all leaders in education. I mean, if we think about teacher leaders and building leaders and student leaders, it's about inspiring action. I mean, we can't force them to do it any more than like Marty can force George to go ask out Lorraine.
And I mean, like a lot of the people here at South by Southwest that you see in the presentations, they're like Marty. Marty gets all the attention. Everybody wants to be Marty. But when you really think about it, it's really not about Marty. It's not about all of us go to these conventions. It's about George. And how do you get George, the educators, the teachers, the students, the leaders, to say, how do we make George say, get your damn hands off of her?
I know. What do leaders do? I mean, like Marty even tries to scare George. I mean, there's that scene he invokes Darth Vader. I mean, it's kind of, and I think that happens in policy, right? It's like saying like the kids won't survive the future because of lack of skills. It's invoking economics and automation and artificial intelligence. But I think you're right. Like, how do we just get George to ask Lorraine out?
And I think the other thing, on the flip side, going a little bit further, how do we avoid this kind of Biff world, right? We think we're treating the symptoms, but in the reality, we don't think about the, side consequences. Maybe it's about more than just technologies and systems and things.
So I think we need to have this conversation, like about what learning could really look like and how do we bring more people into this really deep conversation and how do we figure out how to meet more people where they are, the folks that aren't at South by Southwest. So what is our obligation and how do we inspire the people who are there, to then take action, the actions that they need to take when they leave?
Beth, if all calculations are correct, by the end of our South by Southwest session, we're going to see some serious